Georg Elser, a guy who could have saved millions of lives and altered the course of history if he had only 13 more minutes. If Adolf Hitler had utilized the bomb he had constructed himself, he and his henchmen would have been destroyed in 13 more minutes. Georg Elser is shown gingerly packing some homemade dynamite sticks into a stone pillar of the Burgerbräukeller in Munich, Germany. After that, he covers the hole and adjusts the clockwork mechanism. He sees to it that everything is well hidden. It appears that while putting things together, he injured himself. He has cuts on his hand and is in discomfort in his knees. Still, he is dedicated to the work. Next, he looks to see where his target will take a seat and make his speech. Knowing that the explosives are directly behind the podium, he then exits the building. Adolf Hitler, the German leader, and the assassination target is welcomed with cheers by his peers. He is there to deliver his annual commemoration speech. His speech centers on the anniversary of the beer hall putsch that transpired 16 years ago. The attempt to topple the government was failed. The location of the bombs is behind him. A note explaining that bad weather keeps his plane from taking off is given to him. Hitler keeps up his sympathetic remarks. Georg frantically checks his pocket watch before making his way to the border between Germany and Switzerland in an attempt to flee. He gets called out as he is about to cross the border by 2 German officers. They are still dubious even after he clarifies that he is searching for his acquaintance from the Konstanz Folklore Society. They take him to their station and confiscate everything he was carrying, including a blueprint for a building. He cautiously peers at a wall clock while being searched. The time is 9 in the evening. He knows that it's just a matter of time before the explosion. One officer sees his red front badge. He is told that it's illegal and is forced to face the wall. As the officer pats him down, he notices that Georg has injuries and puts him behind bars right away. Georg grabs his pocket watch, shaking. At exactly 9:20 p.m., a vast explosion ensues. He remains seated in the holding station, not knowing if the assassination is a success or not. An officer at the Reichssecurity main office is told about the events that have just taken place in Berlin. The soldiers are fully alert. Georg's village is being approached by the convoy, led by Police Chief Arthur Nebe. All of Georg's family are to report to the square, he tells local party leader Eberle. Knowing the Elsers to be decent citizens, he is surprised. What has Georg gotten himself into, he wonders. Nebe gives him an order to obey out of fury. The authorities found Georg's family, including his ex-fiancée Elsa, quite quickly. Elsa is placed under arrest as Eberle takes her kids. Eberle warns her to let go of her children, or the officers will take them too. Nebe checks the footage of the aftermath with his officers. He's blown away by the damage that the explosion caused. Georg is brought into Nebe's office, tied behind his back. As he enters the room, he sees some torture paraphernalia on the table as Nebe joins enter the room. Georg refuses to greet the officer the way they do by saying, "Hail Hitler." Nebe informs Elsa that he's in charge of his case. He also introduces Gestapo head Heinrich Müller. Nebe requests to see Georg's knees, so Georg is told to take off his pants. Then, he is informed that Hitler is still alive and that the explosion claimed the lives of 7 innocent people since he fled the scene 13 minutes before the bomb detonated. The news devastates Georg. That was his only opportunity. Müller starts questioning Georg, but he won't answer anything. Then he travels back in time to 1932, when he was enjoying himself at the lake with his pals. He was a woodworker and accordion player who led a modest but contented life. A portion of the memory depicts him in his capacity as a clockmaker. While engrossed, he received a letter telling him that his father had sold 2 fields, this time the most valuable ones. To sort things out, Georg went back home to his family. His mother hugged him while his father was in a deep sleep due to intoxication. While helping his father cut a huge log, he noticed that he was drinking cider again. This is plenty for Georg. This time, he plucked up the resolve to face his father and threw the alcohol away. In the interrogation room, Georg doesn't seem fazed because he is aware that he is not employed by anyone. He is given one more chance to confess while restrained on a bed. Georg yells in pain as the torment starts, and he continues to receive no improvement. After that, he is returned to prison. Nebe and Müller are debating how to approach Georg about getting a written confession. Nebe requests a list of her family who have been taken into custody. He is aware of what may destroy Georg. Nebe introduces Elsa, who Georg dated even though she was already married to her violent husband, Erich. Knowing what they can do to her if he does not confess, Georg decides to own up to what he did. He gives out his personal details and reveals that he acted alone. Neighbor refuses to believe that he's apolitical as he's been caught wearing a red front badge. Georg explains that being free is enough for him to do what is right, and that he does not need to be affiliated with any parties. Neighbor and Muller report to the Obergruppenführer, who refuses to believe that Georg acted on his own. Neighbor admits that there's not enough evidence to prove that someone ordered Georg to carry out the bombing. The Obergruppenführer wants them to intensify their investigation as ordered by Hitler. Georg writes a confession letter detailing what he did and how he did it. However, both Neighbor and Muller do not believe it. They want to know where he got the materials and who gave him the order to carry out the assassination. Frustrated that they refuse to believe, Georg makes up an elaborate story that he received a call from Winston Churchill and was asked to kill Hitler. This irritates the officers, and he is again tied down. He asks for a pen and a paper to illustrate how he did it. The scene goes back to the time when Georg was in a pub with his friends. Eric came in with a bloody face. He admitted to Eberly that it was Elsa who did it. He then added that Elsa would not be talking back to him anymore. Sensing that Elsa might be badly hurt, Georg hurried to Elsa's house and found her lying on the bed crying. As he was about to comfort her, she kissed him, and they made love. That was the beginning of their affair, which Georg's mother highly disapproved of. Back in his jail, Georg admits to Neighbor how he was able to accumulate the gunpowder from the steel factory where he worked from. He also divulges how he was able to get the materials for the dynamite. Neighbor wants Georg to admit that he's covering for someone else, but Georg is very firm that he acted alone. Georg shows them how required 2 clockworks, and the detonator triggered the explosion. Back to Georg's past, Elsa revealed that she was pregnant, but she was not quite sure if it was Georg's or Eric. Listening to the radio discreetly, Georg and Joseph found out that Hitler ordered the bombing of a Spanish town, killing 260 innocent civilians. This infuriated Georg, and he wanted to put a stop to it, primarily having known that Hitler was also planning to attack other countries. Georg and Elsa made out when Eric caught them. Georg was renting in the basement of the couple when this happened. Elsa was thrown to the floor. Georg grabbed a knife and threatened to kill Eric. Georg began to plan how to carry out the assassination. He collected news articles that showed Hitler giving speeches every year at the exact location. Behind Hitler's podium was a giant Nazi party flag covering a solid pillar. He knew what the next step would be. He waited until the venue was empty and then went behind the post to get an accurate dimension that would be required to carry out his plan. He got what he needed. Back in the interrogation room, Georg expresses his disgust about Hitler and his policies. Salaries are low, protesters are sent to concentration camps, and Jews are being discriminated against because of their faith. Georg adds that there will be consequences to what Hitler is doing, and that it will lead to the downfall of Germany. His typewritten confession is then finalized. Neighbor is now convinced that Georg was on his own when the attack was executed. Muller, on the other hand, is not. While the two are discussing their next move, Georg begs the secretary to send a message to Elsa and his family. He also wants to send condolences to those who got killed. The number of casualties is now 8. The secretary secretly gives Elsa's photo to Georg and asks him not to tell anybody that he got it from her. A flashback to Georg's past showed Elsa giving birth to their son, whom she named Georg. This did not stop Georg from his determination to carry out his plan. He kept honing his skill to perfect the execution of the bombing. He tried it on a tree in a remote area, and the explosion was massive and brought down the tree. Back to the present, the Obergruppenführer storms the office of Neighbor and slams Georg's face on the table repeatedly after hearing what he said about their leader, Hitler. Neighbor starts to show that resistance but does not dare to act on it. The Obergruppenführer then instructs Neighbor and Muller to do whatever it takes to find out whom Georg got the order from. The Obergruppenführer makes it clear that Hitler is the source of the instruction. After that, Georg is sedated and given a medication. Georg doesn't have anything to hide, thus this ends up being ineffective. Georg and Elsa lost their kid in a flashback. Without disclosing to Elsa his true intentions, Georg made the decision to go to Munich in order to carry out his plan. Elsa said goodbye, not sure what lay ahead for them. Georg is sedated and awakens. He acknowledges that he now wants to right his wrongs and reintegrate into the community. He continues by saying his conviction was incorrect. If he was correct, he continued, the assassination would have been successful. After that, he is taken to the concentration camp in Dachau. 5 years after, Nebe is sentenced to death for his part in an assassination attempt to kill Hitler. He is executed by means of hanging. In the Dachau concentration camp, Georg learns about the fate of Nebe from Franz, a disabled prison guard who got the news from the new prisoners. Georg is surprised, but is also concerned about Elsa. He wants to know where she is. He believes that she might be still alive and might be imprisoned somewhere. While empathetic, Franz knows that there's nothing that he can do about it. The guard shares that he's been admitted to the College of Music for the Disabled to lighten up the mood. He then gives Georg some music sheets to play on his zither, a musical instrument, as a token of appreciation. Georg then begins to sing and play the zither. Georg, who has been waiting much too long, asks Franz how to pass away the quickest. As the film closes, Georg is told by Franz that 100,000 people perished in a single night after England destroyed one of their cities. Georg regrets it, since he knows that if his strategy had succeeded, this could have been avoided. Georg is taken out of his cell by more guards as they enter. Muller then gives the order for his execution. Thanks for watching.